Wake Up in Paradise, Chapter 9, Discovering Paradise. I've been wanting to talk to you about something, Ryland said. Yes, what is it? Anne asked. Ryland's tone sounded far too serious. Anne sincerely hoped he was not leaving for another one of his conferences that took him away from the island. I'm going to be able to take some leisure time from my duties. I would like to spend them with you, Ryland replied. Happiness spread throughout Anne. She waited almost breathlessly for Ryan to give her more details. At her silence, he prompted, Would you like that? Of course I would, Anne replied with a pleased smile. What do you have in mind? I like to leave the city and go where I can completely relax for a few days. No phones. Incommunicado, so to speak. We can swim in the ocean, do a bit of hiking or sailing. How does that sound? Ryland responded. Sounds wonderful. When? Anne answered. She was thrilled that Ryland wanted to include her in his vacation plans. I'm overdue for a holiday, so I thought perhaps the week ending next. Is that too soon for you to arrange time from your duties with a hotel? He asked. No, Anne replied enthusiastically without hesitation, vowing that nothing would keep her from spending time with Ryland. Absolutely nothing. We will be staying for the week in the private home of a friend on Juarez. It is very lovely there, peaceful and secluded. Will that be a problem for you? Ryland inquired. The question made it obvious that he was not sure she would accept. No, why? She asked, perplexed. We'll be quite alone, he persisted. Anne wondered about the sudden awkwardness in Ryland's attitude as he cleared his throat. Your family, he added, I know how close and protective of each other you are. I don't want to create a situation for them to think less of you or me. I believe I am trying to say that perhaps we might need to be discreet. Discreet? Anne questioned. They may view our being alone for a week together quite scandalous. In fact, I rather imagine that they will, he replied solemnly. We'll be alone, you and me, Anne inquired. Yes, Ryland answered. Oh, she responded quietly. Anne felt that she owed Peta and her family honesty because she admired them for the wonderful people that they were. Her impulsive agreement to spend time with Ryland had not taken them into consideration. How can we be together discreetly? Anne asked. You know your family better than I, Ryland answered. Perhaps you could be invited to visit friends for a few days. Lie to them? She said, putting the true spin on what he was asking. Yes, I see what you mean, he remarked, becoming pensive. I'll tell them the truth, Anne stated decisively. If they have objections, they will say so. And if they strongly object, will I lose you then? Ryland asked, gazing intently into Anne's troubled eyes. I am 24 years old, Ryland, Anne replied softly. I make my own decisions. And you will come, he persisted. Yes, she said. Anne told Peta about Ryland's invitation before she announced her plans to the man. Then, with the older woman silently observing the excitement, the two roommates made plans for a shopping excursion. The first item on the list was a new bathing suit. She had been borrowing one of Kim's, who was pregnant again, and wearing a bikini this season, she said, was not going to happen. It was also determined that Anne needed new lingerie and sandals. So the pair made a day of it in town, ending the day at the quaint Sunday shop that looked like a copy of a Parisian bistro. They waited for Papa Cheval to escort them home over a decadent ice cream concoction filled with cherries, coconut, pineapple, and nuts. It's a good thing I bought a one-piece bathing suit, Anne laughed. This ain't gonna help me stay in shape to get in the one I just got. I think I've gained a ton since I've been eating my man's suppers. It looks great on you, Peta teased. It sure shows off all those extra places I didn't used to have a couple of months ago, Anne bantered with a wry smile. You worry too much. Our men don't like their women skinny, Peta retorted. Yeah, well, Ryan is not one of y'all's kin. He's been all over the world and hobnobs with beautiful women every day. How am I supposed to compete with that? She lamented. He likes you. Anyone can see that, Aunt Peta assured Anne. Have some confidence, sister. How can I? I don't have no idea what he sees in me, Anne fretted. But I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, she added. You talk so funny sometimes, Peta laughed. Where do you get all those silly sayings? Like y'all don't talk funny, Anne countered with a mimic of Peta's accent. I don't know where my sayings come from. I wish I did, she added soberly, the laughter subsiding as quickly as it came. I hate pretending to be who I ain't. Not that I don't love being here with y'all's family, but if I slip and say something stupid when I get rattled, Rylan will think I'm a retard or worse. You already know what I think, Peta remarked. She gazed at her friend sternly. That I should tell him, Anne answered. Sooner or later you have to, Peta responded. I know. I just want a little more time with him, that's all, Anne replied wistfully. Peta shifted her gaze away from her friend. They had debated this subject many times, repeated the same words and come to the same impasse. Anne hated to argue with Peta on anything. The island girl had been so helpful and generous. She was a true friend, and Anne loved her like a sister. After this weekend, she promised. It won't make a difference, Peta replied. I wish I had y'all's faith, Anne answered, unconvinced. After conferring with Loma, Anne was granted the week leave of absence. Each one of her co-workers were willing to service her rooms for the days that she would be away. Anne then promised each woman that she would pay them back in kind whenever they needed someone to work for them. Only Peta knew the destination of the planned vacation. Anne often wondered if the island girl was a saint or an angel. And then something totally unexpected came from her pretty mouth. Then it was evident that she was in fact a kind-hearted and thoroughly fun-loving modern girl. Do you think he will make a pass at you when you are alone together? Peta asked Anne. Anne was not offended by the question. Peta was her closest confidant, and there was nothing they did not discuss. I dream about him, she admitted, smiling, about having him kiss me, and to be in his arms all night long, the way you and Claude do. It sounds romantic the way you talk about how Claude loves on you. It's like a love story in a movie. I want that, I do, but I don't know. It'll come, Peta predicted. Anne waited for Ryland on the tree-shaded veranda that spanned the entire front of the house. She could see the road as she rocked in the man's large wooden rocker. She'd been up since noon with her bag packed, and it was on the top step. That morning there had been a brief rain, and the air was fresh, warm, and moist, wafting the perfume smell of exotic flowers in the gentle breeze. Anne listened to the birds screeching to each other and the creak of the rocker, the noises of crackling vegetation being disrupted by the breeze and the small living beings that shared the island with the humans. It was the same as any day since she had been here. Nevertheless, today Anne felt alone, and she did not like the feeling. The house seemed extraordinarily quiet to her, with the family gone. Peta had taken her mother to Trina and Kim's house. Although Anne understood why, she felt a little abandoned. She was used to the constant family activity that was always buzzing in and around the house. When Peta first told her mother that Anne had been invited to go with Ryland to visit friends for a few days, Maman Cheval had smiled warmly, her eyes alight with curiosity. When Peta offered no more information, the older woman's eyes grew dark and troubled, and Anne knew that Ryland was right. Maman did not approve. Ryland's appearance vanquished any regrets Anne was feeling immediately. He arrived dressed in a white suit and a pale pink shirt casually open at the neck. With his hair ruffled by the wind and flashing a gleaming white grin under Johnny-wrapped-around sunglasses, the man did not look like a dignified minister of the interior. He looked like a rich tourist out to enjoy a holiday. This was to be Anne's first trip at sea. The trip, she was told, would take about 40 minutes, and as the two boarded the transport vessel, her fervent hope was that she would not get seasick and embarrass herself. The ferry to Juarez Island was larger than the one that Papa steered. There was a lower deck for passengers and an upper deck for automobiles. Seated at Ryland's side, watching the spray foam in their wake, she became apprehensive. She did not like to think of the many vehicles that she had seen on the upper deck right over her head. As the ferry made its way into deeper waters, Anne watched with interest the activity of the colony of sailboat owners and yacht owners. They were at work on their crafts. It was a busy scene full of interesting people that made the harbor their home. Her thoughts went to Renaud and how he longed to be one of those marina dwellers. His dream was to one day own his own boat and go to sea. The sound of Ryland's voice brought her back to the present. I think you will like Juarez as much as I do. It is not commercialized like St. Goulet, although nearly as large in square miles. The mountain you see over there, Ryland explained, pointing in the far horizon where they were visible, were active volcanoes millions of years ago. They have been extinct for almost that long, and there is absolutely no danger. We will go hiking and explore them one day while we're here. Why don't they have lots of things here too, like our island? Anne asked curiously. St. Goulet is situated in the ocean so that it is easier for sailing vessels to land on its shores, Ryland explained. Juarez has a narrow shelf around it, making it treacherous for large ships to enter the channel between the two islands. For many years, it was left virtually unspoiled. Now most of it is privately owned. I wanted to purchase a large tract and build myself a home here on the islands for many years. What's keeping you from it? Anne inquired with interest. I've never quite gotten around to it, and I suspect I haven't been obliged to have anything of my own. I have many friends who have out-of-the-way vacation homes, and they accommodate me, Ryland answered. Like your friend Mr. Gomez? Anne suggested. Exactly, he agreed. When the two disembarked from the ferry, it felt odd at first to be back on solid ground that was not moving beneath her feet. However, by the time Ryland drove his car off of the ramp and reached over to open the door for her, Anne was feeling land steady again. Today, Ryland was driving a small tan BMW instead of the black sedan that he normally used. Having become used to the comfort of the larger luxury vehicle, Anne thought the leather seats were not as comfortable. Then she remembered the bumpy ride of Renault's truck that had not fazed her at all in the past. Hobbing-nobbing with the rich, making you uppity, girl, she thought wryly. The scenery on this island was pretty much a repeat of its sister island, with the exception that it was just that, scenery. Ryland did not initiate conversation, so Anne relaxed and enjoyed watching him as he watched the curving road. The drive seemed to be skirting the island because the ocean became visible again and again. Marinas dotted the shoreline at intervals, and the water surrounding the island was heavily populated with boats and sailing vessels of all sizes. Although they never seemed to get any closer to the mountains, Ryland had previously pointed out to her. A large, rather decrepit building loomed in the distance, set away from the shore in the center of a vast field of overgrown weeds. It looked abandoned and forlorn. What is that building over there? Anne asked, pointing to the direction that they were circling away from. It's the Latrobe sugar refinery, Ryland answered. It has been shut down for years, but it used to be one of the finest in all the islands. Sadly, when the last sugar baron in the family passed away, the present owners had no interest in the place and have allowed it to disintegrate beyond repair. It looks kind of interesting, Anne mused. I would love to see a real sugar refinery, she hinted. The Cheval operation is like a matchbox compared to this. I'm sure it would be highly dangerous, Ryland cautioned. The floors have surely rotted in this climate, and the roof could cave in on you. Paul's estate is in one of the inlets, he said, as if to distract Anne from her silent scrutiny of the old sugar plantation. It is only a short distance by boat, but there's only one road, and it isn't very direct. We're almost there. You've become quiet. Are you all right? I'm okay, she replied. It will be worth it, love. I promise, he assured her, taking her hand in his and squeezing it lightly. Then he gave her a smile in that just-for-you way he had of smiling at her. Anne always melted at that smile, because nothing was worth more than to have him look at her like he was doing at that moment. The house, when it finally became visible, was quite breathtaking. It rose 3 stories above the trees like a huge white box set against a blue sky. Silver windows mirrored the floating clouds, and the sun glinted from them like winking lights. The red-tiled roof was the only color on the structure, while the green, carefully tended lawn was like a carpeted skirt around the building. After the quaint old-world architect of St. Goulet, the stark modern building seemed out of place among the lush tropical background. Nevertheless, it was certainly grand, and it had a beauty of its own. "Do you like it?" Ryland asked. "It's beautiful," Anne replied in awe. "It's even better inside," he promised.